The weekly meeting of the Press Club is presented as a community service of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Thank you for inviting us. My name is Sophie Cunin. It's Brian Perkins, like Jim said. We were chosen by the Occupy Baton Rouge General Assembly to speak at this event. As autonomous individuals, unless we explicitly state that what we are saying has been brought before the General Assembly, we can only speak for ourselves, not for the movement as a whole. In the same vein, Occupy Baton Rouge cannot speak for Occupy Wall Street or any other solidarity group around the world. Occupy Baton Rouge defines itself as a leaderless, nonviolent resistance movement. We see that money, not voting, shapes public policy, that the extremely rich are bailed out while the lower and middle classes are forced to bear the brunt of a failing economy, and that the needs of society are placed behind the profiteering of corporations. The first Occupy Baton Rouge General Assembly was held on October 22nd. Since then, we've held General Assemblies twice a week, Saturdays at noon and Wednesdays at 6. Minutes for the General Assemblies are posted on OccupyBRdotcom to ensure complete transparency. In solidarity with other cities in the Occupy movement, we are organizing an encampment. A permit has been applied for, but was denied on the grounds that, and I quote, "The area being requested and all Capitol Park grounds are not equipped for overnight camping of any type, and this activity would require a security presence that our Department of Public Safety is not staffed or equipped to provide the necessary manpower." In addition to the permit being denied, our legal advisors were out of town, there was an obvious police presence, the courts were on holiday, and all of the media attention was directed towards LSU's campus. So the General Assembly decided that the announced date of Black Friday was not the best day to start the encampment. Our next direct action event is scheduled for December 10th, which is the alternative day of action in celebration of International Human Rights Day. Some detractors of the movement claim that we do not have a unified goal, but that is only because they refuse to listen. In general, the Occupy movement feels as though the government and the corporate world have failed us, both morally and economically. However, this only touches on some of the reform we are demanding. The following are 15 points of unity that have been agreed upon by the Occupy Baton Rouge General Assembly. Keep in mind that these points are in no particular order. Number 1, the collusion between government and corporations must end. In order to move towards reducing money's influence on politics, the Supreme Court ruling on Citizens United versus the FEC must be overturned. Money is not speech, and corporations are not people. Number 2, the government must be transparent and accountable to the people. Every person should have the right to participate in the decisions which affect their life. All processes of the 3 branches of government should be accountable to the people, should be transparent, and should follow the rule of law. Number 3, elections must be fair and equitable. We call for massive election reform. The influence of money must be taken out of the election process. All candidates should be mandated equal media time by law. Voting should shape public policy, not money. Number 4, the financial system must be reformed. We must end policies that foster a wealth divide. Speculation and irresponsible banking practices were big contributors to the financial collapse. Much of this stems from a lack of corporate accountability and the erosion of proper financial regulations, such as the Glass-Steagall Act. Number 5, labor rights must be protected. All working-age people must have the right to unionize. Only through unions can workers be guaranteed the right to safe working conditions, paid leave, and fair, sustainable wages. Number 6, environmental sustainability must be a priority. We must adopt policies which effectively move toward a carbon-free and radioactive-free energy economy. In order to conserve the natural ecosystem and to protect the rights of future generations, we must reduce pollution and deforestation. Those who violate environmental regulations must be held accountable. Number 7, the military-industrial complex must be dismantled. We must prevent the privatization of our military. We must reduce the national security state, end the weapons export industry, and reduce military spending. War crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes against peace must be addressed, and those responsible must be held accountable under international law. Number 8, human rights must be protected. To ensure equal rights for all people, exploitation and discrimination in all forms must be eliminated. Number 9, the prison industrial complex must be dismantled. Everyone deserves the right to effective representation and due process of the law. And all prisoners deserve the right to humane and just conditions. The focus of the prison system should be on rehabilitation and reintegration into society. We must put an end to private for-profit prisons. Number 10, the education system must be reformed. Financing of education should be a priority. The paltry funding of education is a disservice to our citizens, and it hurts the poorest and most underprivileged people the most. We must prevent the privatization of the public school system. All people deserve the right to a high-quality, comprehensive, and publicly funded education. Number 11, access to health care must be a civil right. Everyone, despite their income or employment status, deserves access to health care. Accessible, quality health care should be a basic human right. Number 12, the right to food and water must be protected. We must end food deserts and advocate for the millions facing famine, thirst, and malnutrition worldwide. We must protect the land and water from pollution and privatization. And we must create local, sustainable food networks. Number 13, safe and affordable housing must be a priority. Everyone should have the right to a residence. Homelessness should not exist. Number 14, public transportation must be made available. There should exist safe spaces for pedestrians and non-automobile travel. And we must provide a clean, convenient, and affordable public transit system. Number 15, the airwaves must be protected. Freedom of the press should extend to all persons, from corporate media to citizen journalists. The airwaves and the internet are public goods and should be protected from censorship. In the simplest of terms, we want to end corporate bribery of our elected politicians and return our democracy back to the people. We bring these points of unity before the Baton Rouge Press Club today, not only to be heard, but to issue a challenge to local politicians, to the local media, and to the people of Louisiana. To the politicians, we ask that you respond to the issues that we've highlighted and let your positions be known. To the media, we ask that you use your platform to accurately depict our movement. You have the power to influence the masses. Use it responsibly. We are not jealous, entitled children looking for handouts. We are a local, national, and international movement dedicated to looking beyond our own selfish needs and fighting for the rights of every human being. To the people of Louisiana, we ask that you wake up to the false dichotomy between Republicans and Democrats. The problems we face are systemic and widespread, and they are not unique to any single party. We cannot expect corporations or the government to act morally on their own. It is the duty and responsibility of every citizen to be constantly vigilant in ensuring that they do so. Here, now, across the nation and across the world, history is being made. It only remains to be determined on which side you will stand. Thank you for listening. We will be glad to answer any questions.
allowed them to do so in a less transparent manner. By objecting to that, you also wish to roll back the previous decisions or decisions of Congress as well to limit the capacity of corporations to spend their money in public affairs.
Yes, like we said, this overturning of Citizens United is only a step towards reducing corporate influence over politics. So we definitely have to do more than that. And by overturning this ruling, we're only going back to something that we had before, and we still had these problems back then. So this is only the first step. We can't just go back to what we had before. We also have to look forward toward enforcing new regulations on not just corporate money, but on PACs and everything. We want to get the influence of money entirely out of politics.
Most of the points that you brought out sound very familiar historically. They were tenets of the progressive movement. They were some of them tenets of the populist movement. And then later, of course, the Communist Party had many of the same aspirations. How do you differentiate yourself from some of those political systems?
Well, I think the way that we are different is that we are a broad-based movement. We do, in fact, have some members of the Communist Party and members of the Populist Party, and we have socialists, and we have liberals, and we have conservatives, and we have everybody. Because what we're trying to do is get a majority of the people. We want the masses to be represented by their government. We don't want just the select few. So we incorporate all of the different movements, all of the ideas, and all of the different perspectives, and we try to synthesize them into something that we can all agree on.
Do you see points of common interest with the Tea Party?
Yes, definitely. I think the Tea Party also agrees that our government is not working for them. They see that the bailouts are wrong. They do not want their public taxpayer money going to bail out the ultra-rich. And, the Tea Party likes to blame it all on the government, and it's been represented that we blame it on the media. I mean, not on the media, rather on Wall Street. But the real problem is Wall Street in collusion with government. And we have to find those common grounds with Tea Party if we're ever going to make any change, because it's going to require a broad base.
The changes you want, can you make them from the outside looking in? Don't you have to run for office? Occupy Congress?
Well, see, we're only in the initial stages. We're a month-old movement right now. So right now what we're working on is outreach and education, and we want to make sure that everybody is, everybody knows what these problems are, and everybody knows that they exist. And then as we build up a base, we can just change the entire conversation, and we can force our politicians. And eventually, yes, it is going to take a third party even, because like we said, the Democrats and the Republicans, they are both the problem, and it's going to take something big.
But at some point you'll have to become a part of the system on the inside to be able to change that system on the inside.
I mean, that's something for us to decide in the future. I can't speak to that, how we're going to move as the movement, but myself personally, I think we can do a lot from outside the system, and I think we already have done a lot from outside the system. And the system is fundamentally broken, and sometimes you have to change the system before you can, work inside of it even. It might be impossible to get into the system without even changing it first.
Have you reached out to the Baton Rouge Tea Party or any of those organizations?
Not yet, no. I don't know even how to get in contact with the Baton Rouge Tea Party, to be honest.
That's something you can do. And then the encampment is now December the 10th?
No, that is not for the encampment. That's just our next action, but we are still discussing when the encampment will actually be set. We don't have a date set for that right now.
Will you go forward if you not have a permit?
From what I understand, and I can't, like we said, we can't speak for the movement, but yes, at this point we've asked and we've tried to cooperate, and we tried to get a piece of public land that they don't use and that's off and they denied us for a couple of reasons, like camping is not allowed on the state capitol grounds, although we know that legislators have camped there before, and we know that film crews have been camping. So in the end, we're going to have to decide whether we do want to go against it or not. And I think right now, the general opinion is yes, we will set up encampment with or without a permit.
Could you be more specific exactly who denied that? Will you post that kind of information on your website?
Yeah.
The information is already posted on the website, OccupyBR.com. The information came from the Department of Public Safety, and we put direct quotes why the permit was rejected.
You want to read them again?
Would you like me to read them again? Sure. Okay. The area being requested and all Capitol Park grounds are not equipped for overnight camping of any type. This activity would require a security presence that our Department of Public Safety is not staffed or equipped to provide the necessary manpower. Those are direct quotes. But obviously that's not true since...
And what site?
The site of the former state insurance building. Yeah. It's just an empty lot now. Nobody uses it.
How does this work at the
Excuse me?
I'm going to have to credit Facebook for that one. Made it really easy for people to, get organized and discuss. And is that it?
Yeah. Whenever we had our first General Assembly, actually, one person started up a Facebook group, and another person started a Facebook page, and then the third person started a Facebook event. And, then we all got together through Facebook, literally. And it was just a grassroots, all of us at the same time saying, this is happening across the country, and now we need to make sure it happens here, too.
people around the country getting arrested? Are you prepared to get arrested and go to jail?
Yes, we do have people who are prepared to do that if it comes down to it. We would rather not have that happen, obviously, but if that's how the city or the state decides that they want to handle it, then we're willing to do what it takes.
And you have legal representation now?
Yes, we do. We have been in contact with multiple lawyers, and the main problem was before that, it was Thanksgiving, so our legal representation, they were all on vacation along with the courts, or, out watching the LSU game along with everybody else, so.
Yeah, we've spoken to the ACLU, and they are very much in support of us. So, also, we're waiting to accumulate enough funds for bails. So, until that point, then we'll encamp.
I'd like to know a little bit more about you personally. It was said I didn't get it. Students, young professionals. What's your background? Are you from here?
We both went to LSU, graduated. I graduated in anthropology. Brian graduated in biology. Brian is a freelance writer, and I am in transition between waiting tables and a teaching job. So.
How about the people in your group? Are they very much like you, or?
We have a really wide representation. This is Connor Wessel.
What is your name, sir?
Connor Wetzel. I'm just here to represent another aspect of it. I am currently a student at LSU, but I'm also a veteran. I served in the Navy for 4 years. I'm not originally from Baton Rouge. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. But just to give kind of a varied aspect of who we all are, we're not just graduates that can't find a job. We're people in college now worried about finding a job later on. I've had trouble finding one even with my veteran status. And I've worked my entire life since I was 15 years old, so I have a long and varied job history as well. So, we're not just students, and we're not just graduates. We have all kinds of age ranges. We have a senior. We had a 15-year-old girl speak at one of our general assemblies as well. It's just a very broad spectrum of people that we'd like to think are very representative of the state as a whole.
How many people are actually in the organization here? I mean, is it organized as such?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer with the type of organization that we have, because we don't really have a members list and we don't have requirements to join. The only thing that you have to do to become part of Occupy Baton Rouge is to come out to a General Assembly, have your voice heard, vote on the issues, and tell us what you think needs to be fixed about the government. Everyone has the opportunity to have their opinion heard at these General Assemblies, so anyone can be a member. It just matters until they come out. At our first assembly, we had 120 people out there. Since then, it ebbs and flows between 20 to 50 people at a time at each General Assembly. So it depends on the day of the week,
Are there any public officials involved with the group?
No public officials really right now.
Are there any public officials that you find fault with?
There's someone... Bruce, you want to come up and answer this one for us?
At this point, I suppose the general administration for me would summarize what's fundamentally wrong with politics and values in state government.
What about
Federal officials. So far, Mary Landrieu hasn't really weighed in to support us. The bitter folks would be, alas, opposed to absolutely everything we have to say, and the rest of the federal grouping has pretty much remained outside of our sphere. We're not actively opposing any folks. Jindal would be the focus of any opposition for us. Yes?
You must be terribly disheartened by the fact that Jindal just won in a landslide and didn't even get anybody really to run against.
Yeah, it's true, I mean, the Democratic Party, which we don't have tremendous faith in, doesn't really exist in Louisiana. I really like what Foster Campbell was saying on your show the other day. I thought he was profoundly insightful. I mean, Jindal's base is just amazingly corrupt. I mean, so many people are voting for him out of racial prejudice rather than any kind of authentic desire to improve this society or economy. So I would go with Foster in terms of someone who really has Jindal's number. And the landslide is an illusion in terms of anything like positive social change. In fact, it's the other direction.
How do you spell your last name, Bruce?
B-L-A-N-E-Y. Sure. I mean, charter schools in all the assessments are not competing well with public education. I mean, for-profit or even so-called hidden profit organizations are not working for our students. They're not accountable, and they haven't been effective. I mean, obviously what we need to do is shift dollars into public education. I mean, the situation in Louisiana is public education is starving for money, and we have a person who is so enamored of the free market that he will privatize anything that moves in the state, and education is his next target, apparently. But I mean, there were some good books about this. A woman named Ravitch wrote an excellent book which summarizes the charter school movement and shows how fallacious it is as a response. Actually, I'm not retired. I actually worked for Bobby Jindal for a couple of years in the Department of Health and Hospitals when he was the secretary. I ran the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities there for 6 years, and I now consult in human services around training and education and organizational development, both here and other states.
My name is David Kirshner, Kirshner, and I'm also a member, or a participant rather than a member, in Occupy Baton Rouge. And there are two kinds of concerns, two kinds of basic types of issues that I see Occupy Baton Rouge and the Occupy movement generally as dealing with. There's issues about process, and then there's issues about direction. And a lot of the questions about are you in favor of this politician or in favor of that politician are about the direction that our country is moving in. My particular interest, and I think that ultimately what I think ultimately needs to become the kind of the driving priority, is the issue of process. Because issues of direction are necessarily going to divide people who have otherwise shared interests in the process. And the process, in particular the role of money in our political system, is something that I think needs to be viewed in historical perspective. Our democracy is not yet perfect. It is a democracy that has become, over time, more and more representative in terms of the inclusion of different people for, as having the vote. And if we go back to the early days, it was landowners only who were entitled to the franchise. And the role of money, just even though now everybody can vote, there's still an assumption that people who have money have more right to have their voice heard than people who don't have money. And I think that that's basically an undemocratic aspect of our system, and one that is really sort of driving the bus of democracy careening in every which direction, to the point really almost of ruin of our society. There is simply a need to rethink fundamentally, why is it that people who have money are entitled to give that money to amplify the voice of other people? That is not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the right to stand up and to say what you think without fear of retribution, provided that it is not libelous. The idea that people who have money ought to be able to insinuate that money into the democratic process is a fundamental problem, and I think it's at the root of many, many, many of the other problems.
The Press Club's weekly luncheon is open to the public. Send questions or comments to the Press Club at Post Office Box 1747, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. To view this program again, please visit our website at www.lpb.org.